Caitlin comes millions and millions and millions of more eyeballs. And with those millions and millions and millions of more eyeballs, unfortunately, is going to come some people who are not.
So let's get started without wasting any more time. European made Caitlin an offer of $100 million. The contract was there, every attorney was present, and the executives had their pencils ready before Clark's first WNBA season had ended. He had even written the entire evening script. Sign the contract, smile for the cameras, and raise the jersey, make a few courteous remarks, and head back home. That was the idea, but Caitlin Clark didn't follow through. The plan. In front of reporters, European executives, and her own co-workers, she carried out one surprising performance. She turned to face Sophie Cunningham, and the room fell silent as she spoke. There was silence instead of cheers, yelling, or flashbulbs going off because of what transpired in that room. That evening was a statement rather than a business event, and there were no trainers present. It had significantly altered the. By the end of the evening, there will be a discussion about women's basketball in our nation. If you enjoy this post, think about liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Surprisingly, almost 83% of people have not. Have you already subscribed? It's free and just takes a moment, but it means a lot to us. Fantastic. I sincerely appreciate your help. Let's return to the video now, so relax. This is a rookie's narrative, who used $100 million of her own money to do something unheard of in professional athletics. Telling the story will require considerable time, but every second will be worthwhile. Before we discuss the events of the European tournament, we must discuss something that the majority of casual basketball fans do not fully get. You might feel a little sorry for these. When you hear this, ladies, keep in mind that the WNBA's financial situation was practically a national humiliation. For decades. I'm not making this up, I'm not exaggerating, and I'm being honest with you. Veteran players in this league, women who played professional basketball for 10, 12, or 15 years of their lives earned salaries that were not sufficient to pay their local community's rent. The average compensation for WNBA players was in the middle of 5 digits. For a long time, although it might seem like a lot of money, she could only earn up to $250,000 from a legitimate basketball contract for a top player. To the majority of people, and it is. However, when you contrast that with the NBA, where the minimum rookie contract is over $1 million annually, you begin to see the picture. These women work in their hometowns during the off-season. Some of them conducted one-on-one training sessions, while others were high school coaches. One of the league's most well-known young players, Aya Wilson, has said that her WNBA salary was insufficient to pay her rent. Consider this, a top athlete with elite basketball skills. What did these women do when she couldn't use her basketball salary to pay her rent in the United States? They boarded an aircraft and traveled to Europe, Australia, Turkey, China, and Russia. During the WNBA offseason, they participated in other leagues, sometimes abroad, and families for months at a time in order to make enough money to sustain their basketball careers. Endorsement deals and sneaker contracts were uncommon back home in America. Take a moment to consider this. Basketball players were sporting sneakers that were made and labeled by someone else. Name and receiving very nothing from the businesses that went on to make substantial profits from the sale of those same shoes. Few WNBA players had their own branded shoes for many years. Sheryl Swoopes was the first woman to receive a signature shoe in 1995. Candace Parker. In a league that has been around for a while, Maya Moore, Elena Del Don, and Sabrina Ionescu received theirs in 2023. That is essentially the entire list. Few ladies have ever owned a trainer since 1997. That was the fact. That was the financial situation of. Caitlin Clark made her debut in the American Women's Professional Basketball League in the spring of 2024. She then swiftly destroyed all of it. The most frequently stated sum was closer to $25 million. Early reports, however, put the total at $28 million spread over 8 years. The European signature shoe deal not only surpassed but also eclipsed the previous WNBA record, Sabrina Ionescu's multi-year, purportedly 7-figure endorsement. To put this figure in perspective, the deal with European was the largest in WNBA history. Clark's agreement was not just larger, but much larger. We are discussing a fact that caused seasoned NBA players to reconsider their own contracts and ponder how a WNBA rookie might have earned more money from endorsements in just. Clark swiftly transformed from a collegiate sensation to the most marketable rookie in 5 years. The history of women's basketball. She represented the entire league, not just the Indiana Fever. Commercial future. In many respects, she represented women's sports in the US. Furthermore, the enormous sum was a small gesture rather than the product of generosity or selflessness on the part of Europeans. She could shoot from 35 feet away, but European chose not to sign. It was indisputable, harsh, and cold commercial rationale. European decided not to sign her because she had broken every collegiate basketball scoring record. History. She also did it because she was signed by Europe and every stadium she won was packed out for weeks. Advance. Because television ratings would occasionally double or even quadruple, European signed her. European signed her when her name surfaced on the show because clothes bearing her number were selling out so quickly that the league was unable to replenish it in time. Most significantly, European signed her because she attracted a completely new crowd of fans, many of whom were young ladies and girls who had never attended a WNBA game, and they entered a field that sorely needed them. The Indiana Fever were selected in the 2024 WNBA draft. 45 million people watched Clark's first overall. The previous record was about 600,000. Before she had ever played a professional minute, she raised the draft turnout alone, which is why the number was suitable. As a result, the deal became historic. Europeans were wagering on change rather than a player. They were placing a wager that the woman they were signing would break all prior records in the industry of sports marketing, and as we now know, they were entirely correct. It is now the ultimate objective for the majority of sportsmen. At that point, you sign on the dotted line and take control of the press. That is the summit of the mountain. Vacation. You might be able to ride the wave for as long as it lasts if you build a marketing campaign around your face. And no one would have questioned Clark or held her accountable for doing that. Nobody would have anticipated much more from a player who is still officially a rookie and still learning the game, and continued to try to tolerate the weekly physical abuse she endured on the court. However, most athletes are not like Clark. She has never been, and the primary reason this story is being told now is what she did next. Because she seized her greatest financial opportunity rather than simply cashing in and moving on. Professional career, and gave up a portion of it to another person. Neither in a metaphorical sense, nor with an emotional speech, and she employed a real contract, a real pair of custom shoes, and a real plan to accomplish this. The executives. This strategy was unknown to reporters and even her colleagues until it was employed in front of them. The European tournament was intended to be a standard event. The first thing you must comprehend. Regarding what transpired that evening, a timetable and a documented guest list were available. There were planned cameras and notes with speaking points written on them backstage. Perspectives. European created a commemorative jersey with gold embroidery for the event. It was a straightforward, airtight design. First, play a highlight video of Clark's journey from Iowa to the WNBA. Next, provide her with the jersey on stage. Allow her to give the audience a few polished, rehearsed phrases. In Step 4, shoot 1,000 pictures. Step 5, send everyone home happy. The content will be posted on all social media sites. The machine would continue to work, the shoes would receive pre-orders, and the internet would be bustling for 48 hours. Standard operating procedure for a significant European launch. This has been done 100 times. That was the strategy. Clark showed up at the event with her typical enthusiasm. She was composed, concentrated, and totally present. I was never overpowered by the lights or the cameras. If you've ever seen her during warm-ups before a game, you are aware of the type of presence I am referring to. She presents herself as though she had been doing this for 20 years. Even though she is only 22. Sophie Cunningham, her comrade, stood next to her. At this moment, Sophie Cunningham believed she was there to offer moral support. She might appear in a couple background pictures on someone's Instagram story. Images. She might receive a complimentary snack if Caitlin Clark mentions her briefly during a toast or praises her during a speech. And a glass of sparkling water. She was unaware of what was going to happen. No one else in the room did when the arena's lights went down. A short film began to play on a large screen behind the stage, and there was complete quiet as the conversation subsided to a low hum. And the audience fell silent. The movie detailed Caitlin Clark's entire journey, which began when she was a Des Moines, Iowa, high school student is drawing audiences that are too large for most mid-major college teams. On their best night, local cameramen attempted to track her every step as she made long three-pointers in half-filled gymnasiums. It continued when she smashed the all-time collegiate record during her incredible time at the University of Iowa basketball scoring record and became the most entertaining player in collegiate women's basketball history statistically. The movie then moved to her debut WNBA season, and it didn't sugarcoat anything. It displayed the hard fouls, cheap shots, and bruising that the officials inexplicably decided not to call. The Sports Network commentators claimed she was overexposed, overhyped, and undeserving of the. She was receiving criticism from internet users who thought she didn't deserve to be in the spotlight. The film depicted her exhaustion, her late-night travels between locations, and the burden of carrying an entire league's viewership shoulders before she had even completed the design of her own club. However, the movie also provided the alternative viewpoint. In places where there isn't a WNBA game, stadiums literally trembled from the noise of the buzzer beater. Had ever sold out, the sold-out throng encircled city blocks. Caitlin was seen by the young women in the fans wearing her jersey. With their mouths hanging out and their eyes wide, Clark performed like a real-life superhero. The movie captured the moment. There was no trend with Caitlin Clark, but the league as a whole silently realized something significant. She altered American women's basketball in a way that would last for years. She wasn't a fad or the newest trend. Lengthy time. A European CEO entered the platform with a gold-stitched object as the film came to a conclusion and the screen faded. Jersey. The audience pushed forward in their seats when cell phones were introduced. At this point, everyone had been looking forward to this chance to snap a picture. Caitlin Clark was supposed to take the jersey. She consented, hold it up with both hands, smile into the lights, and let the flashbulbs do their job. She grasped it and stared at it for a while longer than everybody in the room had anticipated before turning away from the. She looked at Sophie Cunningham and the cameras and the European executive who had given her the jersey. Her voice was calm, but each sentence carried a weight that increased the tension in the room. In addition, the audience did not cheer when she mentioned something that was not in the script. "This is not only for me," she remarked. There was no clapping in the room as she said, "This is for all the ladies who come up, put up a hard fight, and protect her team." Because nobody knew what was actually going on, the audience froze, and Caitlin Clark was far from completed. The audience was still experiencing issues when a sleek black display cabinet emerged from behind the curtain onto the stage. Understanding what was happening, Caitlin Clark removed a personalized shoebox from the case without posing for pictures. She walked it straight to Sophie, without holding it in place or turning it toward the cameras. Sophie Cunningham grinned as she put it in her hands with genuine intent. She most likely thought it was a present. Perhaps a thoughtful act of remembrance. Perhaps some sneakers in the Indiana Fever's color to commemorate her teammates' fantastic evening. On its own, that would have been a lovely gesture. The majority of those present had recalled it as a heartfelt exchange between two friends. Sophie Cunningham unwrapped the present,